train our brains to stick to a New Year's resolution? And if so, how do we do it? Eldin Hasa is a neuroscientist with more than 18 years in teaching people how to rewire their brains. And she joins me now. Thank you so much for joining us. Compliments. And he joins, I beg your pardon, compliments of the season. Tell me a bit about this. I'm so excited, the possibility that I might actually achieve the goal before the end of the year.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show, Jumoké. It's an absolute honor to be with you and your BBC listeners. So yes, why do we kind of give up on our New Year's resolutions at the end of January, first week of February? Well, first of all, we set these lofty goals, you know, and it is something that our brain resists because, you see, change happens in the brain systematically and gradually. So when we set these lofty goals, we expect to see results, you know, sort of instant gratification.
Yeah.
And because, you know, we haven't been to the gym, let's say, for a few months, and we overindulge in many things during Christmas, probably from about, you know, October. And now, first week in the gym, we've been 7 days, we get on a scale, and actually we gained half a pound. And the brain is saying, what the heck are you doing? And so not only did we gain half a pound, we also stopped eating all of those highly processed sugary foods which send these happy hormones to our brain. So it's kind of like, you know, I am not getting the results that I'm supposed to be getting, plus I'm not eating my chocolates, my cookies, my, you know, whatever. And some people even go into a dry January, and they might even actually put on a few pounds by the end of the January, but that's the muscle. You see, they've lost the body fat, but they've gained some muscle. But because if they are used to getting on a scale and checking if they've lost some, then they get discouraged. And this is why most people kind of give up and quit.
And so it sounds like you're saying that we somehow need to tap into the reward center in our brain in a way that is healthy.
Yes, absolutely. But also, it's the programming. You see, when we speak to our brain, we say that exercise is a chore. So we have association and a program in the brain which looks at exercise, physical activity as a chore, as something we have to do. It's not so if you say, okay, do I stay home and binge watch my box set on Netflix or Amazon or whatever, then the brain association is that's the pleasure. And this here, going and sweating and you know, working out so hard, maybe even with a personal trainer, it's a chore and it's something I have to do.
But then therein lies the problem. So what you're saying is we need to find a way to reprogram it in a way that makes it seem less of a chore and more enjoyable. How do we do that?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you have to begin to have a conversation with your brain and begin to have the association of pleasure of working out. And the way you do it is you can have a conversation and say, okay, we are going to have a workout for an hour, and as a treat, you can have your small bar of chocolate. So now, slowly, the brain is beginning to associate training with like a pleasure reward. And of course, as we know, during the physical exercise, it's very important for cognitive health, for brain health. And we do actually release the dopamine and endorphins and all the other happy hormones during the physical activity, especially cardio, like running or swimming or, you know, aerobic class.
And are there other things we can do? So if it's not just about exercise, it's about trying to keep some of these New Year resolutions and keeping them going. So are there tips you can share with us that will help us? It may not necessarily be physical. It may be, I'm, you know, studying for whatever, I need to keep going, or whatever those things might be for the individual.
Well, habit cultivation, it's a primary reason why people kind of give up on their New Year's resolution, because habit cultivation or habit development, I mean, another name for subconscious mind is habitual mind. And as adults, the subconscious mind learns through repetition. So one has to give oneself adequate amount of time to repeat something often enough until it becomes an automatic habit. According to the University College London, they say it takes approximately 66 days for a brain to create new neurosynaptic connection and new neural pathways, which they call a positive automatic habit. So repetition is the key. It's like, when you go to the gym and you do repetitions, you don't do just one, for your biceps curls. You do perhaps 3 times 10 or 5 times 10. So that repetition over time, and what happens in the brain is very interesting. If we learn something once, if we perhaps listen to this call and we say, well, this is interesting, I'm learning some new things. If you do not visit this information, if you do not repeat this knowledge, the information then prunes apart and disappears within the brain, or from the brain within hours, within days. But if you want to create a permanent memory and these clusters of neurons in the brain, which then you can access over and over and over again, this has to happen through repetition. So I advise anybody, if they are learning something new, learning a new language, learning a new skill, getting some very important information, is to take notes, but in the form of a question. When will I use this information? How can this information, this knowledge benefit my life? And why must I use it, and when will I use it? So when you ask these open-ended questions, there's a part of the brain which is responsible for about 40%. It's in the frontal lobe area. It loves these kind of questions. Then it activates like, oh, I'm trying to solve a puzzle. And it looks for ways to actually resolve this rather than sort of feeling stuck, like, oh, I have no idea how am I going to do this. So by revisiting the new information, new knowledge, and then consistently and daily applying it, you are helping yourself to create momentum in achieving your New Year's resolutions, in achieving your objectives. First step is clarity. What is it that I'd like to achieve? What are my objectives, my New Year's resolutions, and why? So why is equally as important as having clarity what it is that you want, because sometimes what we write on a piece of paper is actually something that our partner told us we should do, our mother, our parents. So it's not really something that we do desire. So that strong why, it's very important for you to actually follow through. Because according to the study in the United States, over 98% of people who set New Year's resolutions, they give up after about 4 weeks. And this has been done over a number of decades. Peer-reviewed scientific papers have confirmed this. And it is to do with humans resist change. In particular, the brain resists change. And why is that? The hardest part about change is making the new choices as you did the day before. That's the hardest part about change.
It's really interesting because this morning, this morning on my, I have an app, and one of the apps, they have these kind of little sayings that they put on, and one of the things it said this morning was, procrastination is a habit that becomes more ingrained. And I was like, oh, that is so true. It was like a wound in my heart. I was like, wow. Because as you pointed out, you can either go for the good or you can go for the bad. That whatever you keep doing will keep following you.
Absolutely. Well, there is a saying that life is C, between the B and the D. Between birth and death, we have a choice. That's the C. So what choices are you making? And I promise you, I know in theory sounds easy, but it actually is. And there are 3 things which I can help your listeners and your audience to understand, is that when we have these thoughts we identify these thoughts, which is 60 to 70,000 thoughts each day. Over 98% of the thoughts are repetitive as the day before and day before. But we're not even aware because they are coming through the subconscious mind, right? And now if we just begin to identify and become aware, be conscious of our daily dominant thoughts, especially the ones which are negative and disempowering, and we write them down, then we can begin to choose to rewire the brain to the positive habits, to the positive outcomes, by replacing those thoughts. And then equally as important is the emotions. I would say even more important than the thoughts, because we never how are you feeling when we see our friend or somebody's seeing, our mood, and how are you feeling today? So feelings and emotions is a chemical reaction within the brain which originate initially from a thought, but then there is this never-ending cycle. The equal thought equal the emotion, and it's like, so how do you interrupt it is by becoming aware of these negative disempowering thoughts and then negative disempowering emotions, and you can also change them, and you can self-regulate. You can get your brain to be in a highly coherent state. And I can teach your audience a technique which is called the 1 minute brain and heart coherence technique, which is very, very powerful, and actually it reduces the stress almost down to zero, the burnout, the overwhelm, the stress responses, the fight or flight state. It gets you into the state called homeostasis, equilibrium, which is our dominant state for optimal health of your brain as well as overall well-being.
We've got time for that, as long as it doesn't go, we don't have dead air, so we don't have just empty air. Just give us some highlights of the technique.
All right, so basically the way you do it, you place an open palm of your right hand over your beautiful heart, and then you inhale through your nose for count of 5, and you exhale through your mouth count of 8, as if you are smelling the roses through your nose and you are blowing out the birthday candles. And the key of this technique is to evoke the feelings of appreciation, thankfulness, and gratitude, and compassion and love through your beautiful heart. So with each deep breath, you are visualizing and evoking these feelings of appreciation and gratitude through your beautiful heart. And how you do that is the moment you think of something or someone or an experience, it brings you an enormous amount of appreciation, joy, love for life. And then you use that as an anchor point, and you just do like 5 or 10 deep breaths, and you focus through this rhythm, in for 5, out for 8. You focus to breathe through your beautiful heart by evoking these positive emotions. And what happens then, it gets your brain in a highly coherent state, and it slows down your heart rate. Now there is a signal between heart and the brain, and this state is called a state of harmony. So there is a harmony in the brain and the heart, or coherence, and it's a very, very powerful technique. Even you can find it in a recent couple, I think last 2-3 years, NHS has put it up on their website.
Well, I mean, it's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you ever so much for joining us this afternoon. Eldin, Hasa, neuroscientist, teaching people how to rewire their brains, joined me this afternoon. And I wonder about you. Have you managed to maintain a New Year's resolution, and what techniques did you use? 0800 731 2000, or you can text by stuff.
Thank you so much, Eldin. It gave us a lot of food for thought.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful. Thank you.